Well, the Premier has really caused a bit of a foofara here. And I guess it mostly started when he indicated that for the Appointments Committee that recommends judicial appointments to the government, he is going to install, or has installed, 2 former employees of the Progressive Conservative government on that committee. Let's play some tape. Sheldon, if you would.
We got elected to get like-minded people in appointments, and by the rules, you can't have lawyers picking judges, so you have to have citizens. I'm not going to appoint some NDP or some Liberal. Every single appointment I can to find tough judges, tough JPs, to keep guys in jail, and I say guys because 99.9% are guys, I'm going to do it. So that's part of democracy.
There's Premier Ford. What'd you think?
Well, I think there's democracy. It may be a little bit too much democracy. I think that probably there's some internal polling that is suggesting to Premier Ford that this is a winning issue for him, particularly the part about the tough on crime. The trouble is that tough on crime is not in and of itself a judicial philosophy. And so I think while this may be good short-term politics, it's bad in the long term for the perception of the judiciary.
Mitch, what'd you think?
I think the Premier's main problem might have been that he told the truth. For a long time, governments in this country have appointed people who are of a particular persuasion relative to their own to the bench. We saw this a couple of years ago when 5 out of 6 appointees in New Brunswick were either friends, family members, or recent donors of Dominic LeBlanc, who's now the the public safety minister. So this isn't new, and Premier Ford's not the first minister to do it.
Michael, there is kind of a funny line in politics, which is the definition of a mistake is a politician accidentally saying something true out loud. So is that really what's gone on here?
No, this is actually something new, something that we haven't seen in Ontario. Ontario has what has long been considered the gold standard for appointing judges, the Judicial Appointments Advisory Committee. And what we've seen this government do, dating back to when Doug Downey, Ontario's AG, was first appointed, we've seen the government not only appoint people that they think will advance an agenda, which is problematic in and of itself, but we've seen this government actually change the rules about how those judges are appointed. And that sort of systemic erosion of a very important nonpartisan institution that provides a safeguard to guard against partisanship is what makes this so different and so disturbing.
Well, I'm going to call a bit of an audible here. I was going to play this later, but Sheldon, if you would, middle of page 2, we've got that Doug Downey clip. The Attorney General was on this program a few years ago, and we talked about this sort of broadening of the pool that he wants to do from which to pick judges. So let's roll that now.
There are 2 parts to the appointment of judges. One is to decide whether they're qualified or not qualified, and that's really important. But the second part is for me to pick people who reflect some of the values that I have, and I want to put some of those in the regulation so people understand. Understanding victims' issues, making sure that they have community leadership, making sure that those pieces are there, and sometimes only I can assess that. And I don't know why, as Attorney General, I'm allowed to do a ton of things, but I'm not allowed to pick from a bigger pool of people who a third-party committee say are qualified.
Now, that's more than 4 years ago he's saying that. So in some respects, there's nothing new in this, is there?
Well, I think that it's a subtle escalation, right? It's different to say that we're looking for judges that have a certain swath of broadly defined values and saying we're looking for judges that are in lockstep with us, that share our political views. I'm not going to be looking at Liberal or NDP. So I think that there is a subtle escalation here, and I think it has crossed a line where it's going into the perception and legitimacy of the judiciary. Mitch, a bit of an escalation in your view also?
Not really. I mean, the Premier's been fairly clear about what he perceives as some of the issues with the judiciary. You talk about bail reform, you talk about mandatory minimum sentences, things of that nature have come up in particular in recent conversation. But it's not like if you're a conservative in this country, you believe that the judiciary was perfectly nonpartisan or perfectly non-ideological before. It seems to, in this case, only be an escalation because it's a conservative government doing it.